Hi, my name is Robyn, and I just turned 27 last month, the day everything changed. I had just signed a $6 million contract with the Chicago Blaze. I was on top of the world, ready to share my success with my family despite our complicated relationship. I never imagined my sister Vanessa would push me down the stairs out of jealousy. I certainly never thought I would wake up alone in a hospital bed, abandoned by my own blood. Before I tell you how I went from signing a life-changing contract to waking up in a hospital bed, let me know where you are watching from. Drop a comment and subscribe if you want to hear stories that remind you why family is not always blood. I grew up in a middle-class neighborhood in Boston with my parents, Kenneth and Linda, my older sister Vanessa, who is 32, and my younger brother Noah, who is 23. From the outside, we looked like the perfect American family. But appearances can be deceiving. For as long as I can remember, there was always an unspoken hierarchy in our household. Vanessa was the golden child. Noah was the baby of the family, and I was somewhere in between, often forgotten or overlooked. My parents attended every single one of Vanessa's piano recitals and art exhibitions, praising her mediocre talents as if she were destined for greatness. Meanwhile, my basketball games were treated as an inconvenience, something they would attend only if nothing better was happening that day. Basketball is not a real career path for a girl, my father would say dismissively whenever I mentioned my dreams. You should focus on something practical, like your sister. Vanessa knew she had this power over me, the unconditional support of our parents, and she wielded it like a weapon. When we were younger, she would break her own belongings and blame me, which led to my punishment. As we grew older, her tactics became more sophisticated and manipulative. She would make snide remarks about my appearance when friends came over, or conveniently forget to tell me about family plans. "Oh, did Mom not tell you we were having dinner at Grandma's tonight? I thought everyone knew," she would say with fake innocence, fully aware she was supposed to pass the message to me. By 16, I realized that if I wanted anything in life, I would have to earn it myself. I got a job at the local grocery store, stacking shelves after school and on weekends. I saved every penny knowing my parents would prioritize Vanessa's college fund over mine. While they paid for her to attend an expensive art school in New York, I applied for scholarships and worked multiple jobs to put myself through state college. Basketball was my escape, my passion, and eventually my ticket out. I would practice for hours after school, often alone on the community court, perfecting my technique through countless drills. When it rained, I would still be out there, the water making the ball slippery and hard to control. But I never gave up. The sound of the ball hitting the wet pavement, the squeak of my shoes on the court, the swish of the net when I made a perfect shot. These became the soundtrack of my determination. It was during one of these solitary practice sessions in the rain that Coach Sophia first noticed me. She was 42, tough as nails, with the kind of no-nonsense attitude that commanded respect. She pulled up in her battered blue sedan, rolled down the window, and watched me for a full 20 minutes before approaching. "You have natural talent," she said, not as a compliment, but as a simple statement of fact. "If you are willing to work harder than you've ever worked in your life, I can help you turn that raw ability into something special." Sophia became more than just my coach. She became the maternal figure I had always longed for. She pushed me to my limits, believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and never once treated my dreams as anything less than achievable goals. Under her guidance, I transformed from a talented but unfocused player into a disciplined athlete with real potential. College scouts began showing up at my games during senior year. I received several scholarship offers and accepted one from a Division I school with a strong women's basketball program. My parents barely acknowledged this achievement. "I suppose that will save us some money," my mother remarked when I showed them my scholarship letter, as if that were the only value in what I had accomplished. College was where I met Marcus. He was in his first year of law school when we literally bumped into each other at the campus coffee shop. I was rushing to practice, and he was buried in a constitutional law textbook. Our collision resulted in my sports drink spilling all over his notes. I expected anger, but instead I got a smile that made my heart skip a beat. Now I have an excuse to rewrite these, he joked, gesturing to the purple-stained pages. Honestly, I was looking for any reason to take a break. Marcus was different from anyone I had ever met. He came from a loving, supportive family and could not understand the dynamic I described with mine. He would often listen in disbelief as I recounted stories from my childhood. That is not normal, Robyn. Families are supposed to support each other, to build each other up, not tear each other down. With Marcus's emotional support and Sophia's continued guidance, I thrived in college. I became a star player, breaking several school records, and gaining attention from professional scouts. My degree in sports management gave me a backup plan, but my heart was set on playing professionally. Meanwhile, my family continued their pattern of indifference. They attended exactly 2 of my college games in 4 years. Vanessa had moved back home after failing to make it as an artist in New York and was working at a local gallery, constantly complaining about how underappreciated her talent was. Noah was following in my father's footsteps, studying business and already showing signs of adopting their dismissive attitude toward my career choice. Despite their lack of support, I remained determined to succeed, not to prove them wrong, but to prove to myself that I was worthy of the dream I had been chasing for so long. Every rejection, every dismissive comment, every missed game only fueled my determination. I would make it with or without them. And as I entered my final year of college, with professional scouts regularly attending my games and my name being mentioned in conversations about the next generation of women's basketball stars, I began to believe that all those years of hard work, all those rainy days on the court, all those early mornings and late nights of training were finally about to pay off. What I did not know then was that my greatest challenge would not come from the court, but from the people who were supposed to love me the most. The people who shared my blood, but not my dreams. The people who would rather see me fail than succeed on my own terms. The game that changed everything happened during the National College Championship. We were down by 2 points with 10 seconds left on the clock. The ball came to me at the 3-point line, and time seemed to slow down. I could see every option, every player's position, as if the court had suddenly become a chessboard, and I could anticipate every possible move. I faked a pass to my teammate on the right, pivoted left, and launched myself into a jump shot just as the buzzer sounded. The ball arced through the air, and the entire arena fell silent. When it swished through the net, the crowd erupted in a roar I can still hear in my dreams. We had won the championship, and I had scored the winning basket. That moment was captured by dozens of cameras, replayed on sports channels nationwide, and suddenly my name was on everyone's lips. 3 talent scouts approached me after the game, business cards extended, promises of bright futures hanging in the air between us. The most persistent was from the Chicago Blaze, a team that had been struggling in recent seasons and was looking for fresh talent to revitalize their lineup. Their initial offer was good, but Marcus, who had just passed the bar exam and was working at a sports law firm, advised me to negotiate. "They want you more than they are letting on," he said, reviewing the contract terms. "This is just their opening position. We can push for better conditions." The negotiations stretched over 3 months, with offers and counteroffers going back and forth. Each time the Blaze returned with a new proposal, Marcus would pore over it, highlighting areas where we could still improve the terms. It was a stressful time, filled with uncertainty and self-doubt. "What if they withdraw the offer completely?" I asked Marcus one night, anxiety keeping me awake. "What if I'm pushing too hard and they decide I'm not worth the trouble?" "They will not walk away," he assured me, his confidence unwavering. "You are the best rookie prospect this season. They need you more than you need them." Coach Sophia was equally supportive during this period. She had connections in the professional league and kept reassuring me that the interest from Chicago was genuine. "They are building their strategy around you. They have already started designing plays that will showcase your strengths. Trust me, they are not going anywhere." Finally, after what felt like an eternity of back and forth, we reached an agreement. $6 million over 3 years with performance bonuses that could potentially add another $2 million. It was more than I had ever dreamed possible, a validation of every sacrifice, every hour of practice, every moment of doubt I had pushed through. The day I signed the contract was surreal. The team president, Charles Wilson, a legend in the basketball world, personally welcomed me to the Chicago Blaze. Cameras flashed as we shook hands, and I struggled to maintain my composure, to keep the tears of joy and relief from falling in front of all these important people. "Welcome to the family, Robyn," Charles said, his grip firm, his smile genuine. "We believe you are going to help this team to the championship." As I walked out of the Blaze headquarters, contracts signed and future secured, I felt a strange mixture of emotions. Pride in what I had accomplished, excitement for what lay ahead, but also a lingering sadness that I had no one from my actual family to share this moment with. Despite years of neglect and dismissal, some part of me still craved their approval, their recognition. And in that moment of triumph, I decided to go home and share my news with my family, hoping that perhaps this achievement, this undeniable success, would finally make them see me. Before heading to Boston, I video called Marcus from my hotel room. "Are you sure about this?" he asked, concern evident in his voice. "You know how they are. I don't want them to ruin this moment for you." "I have to try," I said. "Maybe this time will be different. Maybe now they will finally be proud of me." "Just remember, whatever happens, this is your achievement. No one can take that away from you. And I am so incredibly proud of you, Robyn." His words warmed my heart, but I still felt that pull, that need to share my success with the people who had known me longest, even if they had never really seen me. I stopped at various stores before heading to my parents' house, picking out thoughtful gifts for each family member. For my father, an expensive watch he had been eyeing for years. For my mother, a designer handbag from her favorite brand. For Vanessa, a necklace from a trendy jewelry designer. For Noah, the latest gaming console he had been talking about. In my mind, I imagined their reactions, their surprise and delight, not just at the gifts, but at the news that I, the overlooked middle child, had achieved something extraordinary. Maybe now they would see that my path, though different from what they had envisioned for me, was valid and worthy of respect. And in that moment of triumph, I decided to go home and share my news with my family, hoping that perhaps this achievement... I rehearsed what I would say, how I would tell them about the contract, about the future that was opening up before me. I imagined hugs, congratulations, maybe even a family celebration dinner. What I could not imagine, what I never saw coming, was the jealousy, the resentment, and the violence that would greet my success. As I pulled into the driveway of my childhood home, I had no idea that I was about to experience the darkest betrayal of my life at the hands of the people who should have loved me the most. The familiar scent of my mother's cinnamon potpourri hit me as I opened the front door. The house looked exactly the same as it always had, from the family photos lining the staircase wall to the worn but clean furniture in the living room. For a moment, nostalgia washed over me. Memories of childhood when things had been simpler, before the family dynamics had hardened into their toxic pattern. "Hello," I called out, setting down the shopping bags filled with gifts. "Anyone home?" My mother emerged from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. Her expression shifted from surprise to a forced smile when she saw me. "Robyn, we were not expecting you," she said, her tone making it clear that my unannounced visit was an inconvenience. "I wanted to surprise you all," I replied, keeping my voice light, refusing to let her lukewarm reception dampen my spirits. "Is everyone here?" "Your father is watching television in the den. Vanessa and Noah should be home soon." She glanced at the shopping bags. "What is all this?" "Just some gifts. I have good news and I wanted to share it with everyone." My father appeared in the doorway, remote control still in hand, looking mildly annoyed at having his evening routine interrupted. "Robyn," he acknowledged with a nod, "what brings you back?" Before I could answer, the front door opened and Vanessa walked in, followed closely by Noah. Vanessa's eyes narrowed at the sight of me, while Noah at least managed a small smile. Family reunion, Vanessa said sarcastically, dropping her keys on the side table. What's the occasion? I have something to tell you all, I said, my heart racing with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. Can we sit down together for a few minutes? We gathered in the living room, an uncomfortable silence settling over us. I took a deep breath and began to share my news. I just signed a contract with the Chicago Blaze, $6 million over 3 years with performance bonuses. The silence that followed was deafening. My father's eyebrows raised slightly, the first sign of genuine surprise I'd seen from him in years. My mother's mouth opened and closed as if she was struggling to find words. Noah looked genuinely impressed, while Vanessa's face had gone completely still, her knuckles white where she gripped her purse. $6 million? My father finally said, disbelief evident in his voice. Yes, I confirmed, reaching for one of the shopping bags, and I wanted to celebrate with you all. I brought some gifts. Gifts? My mother repeated, her eyes now fixed on the bags. I began distributing the presents, explaining each choice as I handed them out. My father examined the watch with a mixture of appreciation and something else, something that looked almost like resentment. My mother ran her fingers over the soft leather of the designer bag, her expression unreadable. And then there was Vanessa. She opened the jewelry box slowly, staring at the necklace inside without touching it. I remembered you admired this designer when we saw their collection in a magazine last year, I explained, hoping to see some softening in her expression. Instead, she snapped the box shut and placed it on the coffee table with deliberate care. How nice of you to toss your money around, she said, her voice dripping with disdain. Must feel good to show off like this. Vanessa, my mother said half-heartedly, but there was no real reproach in her tone. No, Mom, let's be honest for once, Vanessa continued, her voice rising. Little Robyn comes back after signing some big sports contract and thinks she can buy our approval with expensive gifts. Does that sum it up? I felt my face flush with hurt and embarrassment. That is not what I was trying to do. I just wanted to share my happiness with you. Your happiness? Vanessa repeated mockingly, because it's always about you, isn't it? Even when you're gone, it's all Robyn this and Robyn that, from your precious coach and your perfect boyfriend. Poor Vanessa stuck at home working a dead-end job while her sister becomes a sports star. No one has been talking about me, I said, confused by her outburst. I've barely heard from any of you in months. Right. Vanessa laughed bitterly. That's why I had to hear from Mrs. Jenkins next door about how proud I must be of my successful sister. That's why customers at the gallery ask me if I'm related to that basketball player and look disappointed when they realize I'm just the sales assistant. The room grew tense as Vanessa continued to vent years of pent-up jealousy. To my shock, instead of trying to calm the situation, my parents began siding with her. You have had a way of making everything about yourself, Robyn, my father said, setting the watch box down on the table next to Vanessa's discarded necklace. Coming here, flaunting your success, acting like we should all be grateful for your attention and your handouts. Handouts? I echoed, stunned by the accusation. They are gifts. I thought you would be happy for me. Happy that you've thrown away years on a career that will be over the moment you get injured? My mother chimed in. Happy that you're living some unrealistic dream instead of building something stable and meaningful like your sister has tried to do? I could not believe what I was hearing. In what universe was Vanessa, the one who had dropped out of art school and was working part-time at a gallery, the responsible one? I had a degree, a professional contract, financial security, and yet somehow I was still being cast as the family disappointment. I also wanted to tell you that I'm planning to buy a new house, I said, trying to steer the conversation back to positive territory. Something big enough for all of us if you ever wanted to visit or even move closer to Chicago. This was the wrong thing to say. Vanessa's face contorted with rage. Now you're offering to buy us a house like we're some charity case for you to solve with your newfound wealth. Do you have any idea how condescending you sound right now? That is not what I meant, I protested, feeling the situation spiral out of control. I just wanted to share a place where we could all be together more often. We don't need your money or your pity, my father said coldly. Some of us have dignity. The implication that I somehow lacked dignity because I had worked hard and succeeded in my chosen field felt like a slap in the face. I stood up, fighting back tears. I did not come here to fight. I came to share something important with the people I thought would be happy for me. Clearly, I was wrong. I moved toward the staircase, intending to go to my old room and collect myself before leaving. Vanessa followed me, her face flushed with anger. You always do this, play the victim when things don't go your way. Poor Robyn, so misunderstood, so underappreciated. I'm not playing anything, I said, my hand on the banister. I just need a minute alone. Alone? You want to be alone? Fine, Vanessa screamed. And before I could react, she placed both hands on my shoulders and shoved me backward with all her strength. Time seemed to slow down as I lost my balance. I remember the look of pure hatred on Vanessa's face, the gasp from Noah, and the terrible moment of weightlessness as I began to fall. My head hit the edge of a step with a sickening crack, and pain exploded through my skull. I tumbled down the remaining stairs, my body hitting each step with bone-jarring force, until I finally came to rest at the bottom. World going dark around me. The last thing I heard before losing consciousness was my mother's voice, cold and distant. She deserved it. 3 words that would forever change how I viewed my family. 3 words that confirmed what I had always suspected but never wanted to believe. They had not just failed to love me, they actively wished me harm. The steady beep of a heart monitor was the first thing I became aware of. The sound penetrated the dark and pulling me toward consciousness, one electronic pulse at a time. My eyelids felt impossibly heavy, as if they had been glued shut. When I finally managed to open them, harsh fluorescent light sent daggers of pain through my skull. "She's waking up," a woman's voice said from somewhere to my right. "Go get Dr. Alexander." I tried to turn my head toward the voice, but a neck brace kept me immobilized. Panic rose in my chest as I realized I could not move properly. "Try not to move," the woman said, coming into my field of vision. She was wearing blue scrubs, her name tag identifying her as Isabel, RN. "You've been in an accident." Not an accident, I thought. My sister pushed me. My family watched. But my throat was too dried to speak, and when I tried, only a raspy croak emerged. "Here," Isabel said, holding a straw to my lips. "Small sips." The water was the most delicious thing I had ever tasted, cooling my parched throat. After a few sips, I tried again. "How long?" I managed to ask. "You've been unconscious for 3 days," Isabel replied, her expression sympathetic. "Do you remember what happened?" Before I could answer, a tall man in a white coat entered the room, clipboard in hand. "Miss Coleman, I'm Dr. Alexander. Glad to see you're awake. We had you worried." The next hour was a blur of questions, examinations, and devastating information. I had suffered a severe concussion, 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and trauma to my spine. The doctor was particularly concerned about the spinal injury, explaining that there might be long-term consequences for my mobility. Mobility, I repeated in my mind, my thoughts immediately going to basketball. Will I be able to play again? The doctor's hesitation told me everything I needed to know even before he spoke. "It's too early to make any definitive statements. You will need several months of physical therapy, possibly surgery, depending on how things progress. Professional sports may be out of the question for some time, perhaps permanently." The words hit me like another fall down the stairs. My contract, my future, everything I had worked for, suddenly hung by the thinnest of threads. I closed my eyes, fighting back tears. I need to call my boyfriend and my coach. They need to know what happened. Of course, Dr. Alexander nodded. Nurse Isabel will bring you a phone. But first, would you like us to contact your family? No one has been here to visit yet, but we can reach out to them if you provide contact information. His words sent a chill through me. No one had been here. Not my parents, not my siblings. No one from my family had bothered to check if I was alive or dead. After I was pushed down a flight of stairs in their own home. They know what happened, I said quietly. They were there. Dr. Alexander and Nurse Isabel exchanged a quick glance, and I could see the unasked questions in their eyes. Before they could press for details, I asked for time alone, claiming I needed rest. In reality, I needed space to process this new betrayal, this confirmation that my family's indifference had crossed the line into active cruelty. Later that evening, Nurse Isabel returned to check my vitals. As she adjusted my IV, she hesitated, then spoke in a low voice. I shouldn't be telling you this, but I thought you should know. Your family did come by once the first night you were brought in. They didn't ask to see you. They just wanted to collect your personal effects, your phone, wallet, keys. Hospital policy required us to release them only to family. I'm sorry. The revelation was like a knife twisting in my gut. They had not come to check on me, to see if I was recovering, to apologize. Come from my belongings like vultures picking over a carcass. Thank you for telling me, I whispered, tears finally breaking free and sliding down my cheeks. Nurse Isabel squeezed my hand gently before leaving, and I was once again alone with the beeping monitors and the crushing weight of abandonment. The next morning, the door to my room burst open, and Marcus rushed in, his face pale with worry. When he saw me bandaged and bruised, hooked up to various machines, he stopped dead in his tracks, his expression shifting from concern to horror. "Robyn," he breathed, crossing the room in 3 long strides and carefully taking my uninjured hand in his. "My God, what happened? I've been trying to call you for days." The dam broke, and everything came pouring out in a torrent of words, sobs, and rage. I told him about going home, about the gifts, about Vanessa's jealousy and my parents' betrayal. I told him about the fall, about waking up alone, about learning that my family had only come to take my possessions. Marcus listened in stunned silence, his grip on my hand tightening with each new detail. When I finished, he was literally shaking with anger. I am going to make them pay for this, he said, his voice low and controlled, which somehow made it more frightening than if he had shouted. This was not an accident. This was assault, and they left you here to die. They took my phone, I realized suddenly. Have you been trying to call them too? Every day since you missed our check-in call, Marcus confirmed. Your number went straight to voicemail, and when I tried your parents' house, your father answered once, told me you weren't there, and then they stopped picking up. I was about to file a missing person report when the hospital finally contacted me using the emergency contact information in your wallet they found in your car. My car! I had forgotten about it, still parked in my parents' driveway, another piece of property they would probably try to claim. There's something else, I said, hesitating to voice the thought that had been haunting me since speaking with Dr. Alexander. The doctor says I might not be able to play again. The contract, the blaze, everything we worked for, it might all be gone. Marcus's expression softened. Let me worry about the contract, Robyn. Right now, you focus on getting better. We'll figure out the rest later. Later that day, Coach Sophia arrived, having flown in from Chicago as soon as Marcus called her. Unlike Marcus, she did not try to hide her anger. Those people are not your family, she declared, pacing at the foot of my bed. Family does not do this to each other. As far as I'm concerned, they are dead to us. The team is already talking about voiding the contract, I said, voicing my greatest fear. Marcus has been trying to reach the management, but no one is returning his calls. Let them try, Sophia said fiercely. We have options. Legal options, medical options. This is not over, Robyn, not by a long shot. As the day wore on and the initial shock began to fade, a new emotion started to take root in me. Determination. The same determination that had driven me through years of practice, through college, through every obstacle on my path to professional basketball. I might be down, but I was not out. Not yet. That evening, Nurse Isabel came in with more disturbing news. She said, "I checked your admission paperwork. Your health insurance information was entered incorrectly, and when we tried to verify it, we discovered your coverage has been canceled." She hesitated. "And there have been some large withdrawals from your bank account in the past 2 days. The hospital financial office flagged it because they were trying to process a payment authorization." What? I tried to sit up, wincing as pain shot through my ribs. "That's impossible. I'm the only one with access to that account." "Unless someone has your cards and pen," Marcus said grimly. "Or if they forged your signature on withdrawal slips." The pieces fell into place with sickening clarity. My wallet, my phone, my keys, all in the possession of people who had already proven they wished me harm. People who knew my routines, my passwords, possibly even my banking information. "They are stealing from me," I whispered, the betrayal reaching depths I had not thought possible. "After everything else, they are actually robbing me while I am in the hospital." Marcus's jaw tightened. "I'll call the bank right now, freeze your accounts, and then I'm calling the police. This stops today." As he stepped out to make the calls, I lay back against the pillars, a strange calm settling over me. The pain was still there, both physical and emotional, but now it was accompanied by a cold, clear resolve. My family had finally shown their true colors beyond any shadow of doubt. There would be no more seeking their approval, no more hoping for reconciliation. They had made their choice, and now I would make mine. When Marcus returned, his expression told me he had bad news. "The damage is extensive," he said. "They've emptied your checking account, maxed out your credit cards. They even tried to access your investment account, but thankfully that required additional verification." "How much?" I asked, my voice steady. "Nearly $80,000, all told." I closed my eyes, absorbing this final blow. Then I opened them again, meeting Marcus's gaze directly. "I want to press charges. All of them. Vanessa for assault, all of them for theft. I want them to face consequences for what they've done." Marcus nodded, a grim smile spreading across his face. "I was hoping you'd say that. I already have a friend at the district attorney's office on standby." As night fell and visiting hours came to an end, I found myself alone again in the hospital room, but this time the solitude felt different. I was not abandoned. I had simply outgrown the toxic people who had claimed to be my family. In their place, I had found true support in Marcus and Sophia, people who dropped everything to be by my side when I needed them most. Tomorrow would bring doctors, lawyers, police reports, and the beginning of a long fight for justice and recovery. But tonight, despite the pain and uncertainty, I felt something unexpected stirring in my chest. Freedom. The freedom that comes from finally accepting a harsh truth and deciding to move forward without the weight of false hopes and expectations. My family had left me alone in a coma, but I would not face the future alone. And they would soon learn that their actions had consequences. Consequences they never imagined when they left me for dead at the bottom of those stairs. The next morning, I woke to find Marcus already in my room, laptop open, legal pad filled with notes. He had that focused look I had come to recognize from his most challenging cases, the one that meant he was building a case piece by methodical piece. "Good morning," he said, noticing I was awake. "How are you feeling?" "Like I fell down a flight of stairs," I replied, attempting a weak smile, but ready to fight back. "What do you got there?" he said, turning the laptop so I could see the screen. "The beginnings of our case against your family. I've been up half the night gathering evidence. The good news is we have a lot to work with." Over the next hour, Marcus walked me through what he had discovered. My parents had not only withdrawn money from my accounts, but they had also been systematically going through my personal information, contacting creditors, even attempting to access my email accounts. "The bank has frozen everything and is investigating the fraudulent withdrawals. Your credit cards have been canceled, and we've started the process of disputing the charges they racked up. But this is just the financial side. The assault is the more serious charge, and that's where we need to focus our attention." Dr. Alexander arrived for his morning rounds, bringing both good and bad news. The good: my brain scans showed no permanent damage from the concussion. The bad: the spinal trauma was worse than initially thought, and I would definitely need surgery to prevent long-term complications. "What about basketball?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. "Professional sports will be difficult, if not impossible, after this type of injury," he confirmed gently. "Even with the best possible outcome from surgery and rehabilitation, the level of physical stress that professional basketball puts on the spine would likely cause serious problems down the line." I nodded, swallowing hard. "When can I have the surgery?" "We can schedule it for early next week. In the meantime, we need to start building your strength up as much as possible. Physical therapy will begin tomorrow, just some gentle exercises to prevent muscle atrophy." After Dr. Alexander left, I turned to Marcus, tears welling in my eyes, but determination in my voice. "They didn't just hurt me. They stole my career, my future. Everything I worked for, gone in an instant because Vanessa couldn't stand to see me succeed." "I know," Marcus said, taking my hand. "And we are going to make them pay for every bit of it. Sophia is already in talks with the team management. There may be options for you with the Blaze, even if you cannot play. Coaching positions, talent development, front office work, nothing is decided yet." Later that afternoon, Detective Rivera from the Boston Police Department arrived to take my statement. He was a serious man with kind eyes, the type who had seen it all, but had not let it harden him completely. "I want to be clear about what you are alleging," he said, after I had finished recounting the events. "You are saying your sister deliberately pushed you down the stairs with the intent to cause serious bodily harm, and that your parents not only failed to seek immediate medical attention for you, but also subsequently stole your personal property and financial assets?" "Yes," I confirmed. "And there are witnesses. My brother Noah was there. He saw everything." Detective Rivera made a note. "We will be interviewing all parties involved. Do you have any other evidence to support your claims?" Marcus spoke up. "We have the bank and credit card records showing unauthorized transactions after Robyn was hospitalized. We also have hospital records showing that family members collected her personal effects but did not inquire about her condition. That establishes the theft." Detective Rivera nodded. "The assault is trickier without direct evidence or cooperative witnesses." "There might be something else," I said, a memory suddenly surfacing. "Mrs. Jenkins, our neighbor. Her security camera points towards our front door. If it was recording that night, it might have captured Vanessa and me through the window." Detective Rivera's expression brightened slightly. "That is very helpful. We will look into it immediately." After he left, Marcus made some calls to follow up on the security footage lead. To our surprise and relief, Mrs. Jenkins not only had the footage, but was eager to help. She had always been kind to me, often attending my high school games when my own parents would not bother. "She says the camera definitely captured the front of your house, including parts of the entryway visible through the side window," Marcus reported after speaking with her. "She's giving the footage to the police right now." Another unexpected piece of evidence emerged when Marcus was going through my recovered belongings. My phone, which my family had taken, but which the police had retrieved during their initial investigation, had been recording audio at the time of the incident. You must have accidentally triggered the voice memo app before the argument started, Marcus explained, his voice filled with controlled excitement as he played the recording for me. The quality was not perfect, but it was clear enough to hear Vanessa's angry accusations, my parents' cold dismissal of my success, and finally, the crucial moment. You always do this. Play the victim when things don't go your way. Poor Robyn, so misunderstood, so underappreciated. I'm not playing anything. I just need a minute alone. Alone? You want to be alone? Fine. Body hit each step. And finally, most damningly, my mother's cold voice. She deserved it. Followed by my father's equally chilling response, get her wallet and phone. We need her cards and passwords before anyone else gets involved. The recording continued for several more minutes, capturing their discussion of how to access my accounts and what to tell people about my absence. This is better than any witness, Marcus said, his eyes wide. This is them in their own words. Not only failing to help you after the assault, but actively planning to steal from you while you were unconscious. With the audio recording and the security footage from Mrs. Jenkins, Detective Rivera was able to move quickly. Arrest warrants were issued for Vanessa on charges of aggravated assault, and for my parents on charges of theft, fraud, and criminal negligence. While the legal machinery began to turn, I focused on my physical recovery. The days blurred together in a routine of pain management, physical therapy sessions, and preparations for my upcoming surgery. Sophia divided her time between the hospital and meetings with the Chicago Glaze management, fighting to salvage what she could of my contract. They are sympathetic to your situation, she reported after one particularly long meeting. They are exploring options for a modified contract that would include a position with the organization while you recover, with the possibility of activating the player contract if you are able to return to the court. It was the most hopeful news I had heard since waking up in the hospital, a tiny ray of light in the darkness that had enveloped my life. 5 days after I regained consciousness, as I was finishing a physical therapy session, Nurse Isabel rushed into the room, her expression alarmed. "Your family is here," she said in a hurried whisper. "All of them. They are demanding to see you, saying there has been a misunderstanding about the police investigation. Security is trying to keep them in the lobby, but they are making a scene." My heart rate spiked, the monitor beside my bed beeping in response to my sudden stress. Marcus, who had been sitting in the corner reviewing legal documents, was on his feet instantly. "They have no right to be here," he said, already pulling out his phone. "I'll call Detective Rivera. Do not let them anywhere near this room." But even as he spoke, raised voices could be heard from the hallway, growing louder as they approached. My father's authoritative tone, my mother's high-pitched indignation, Vanessa's angry accusations. "She is our daughter. We have every right to see her. This is all a misunderstanding. Robyn is confused from her medications. She is lying about everything. I never pushed her." The voices were right outside my door now, and I found myself shrinking back against the pillows, genuine fear coursing through me. These people, these strangers who shared my blood, had already shown how little they valued my life. What would they do if they got into my room? Just as the door handle began to turn, a new voice joined the cacophony in the hallway, calm but carrying an unmistakable authority. "Kenneth Coleman, Linda Coleman, Vanessa Coleman. I am Detective Rivera, Boston PD. I believe you are already familiar with the restraining order prohibiting you from contacting Robyn Coleman. I am going to have to ask you all to step away from that door immediately." The silence that followed was deafening. Then came the sounds of protest, quickly cut short by Detective Rivera's nonsense response. You can either leave voluntarily or you can leave in handcuffs for violating a court order. Your choice. But you have about 10 seconds to decide. More angry muttering, the sound of retreating footsteps, and then a gentle knock on my door. Miss Coleman, it's Detective Rivera. Your family is being escorted from the premises. Is it all right if I come in? Are you all right? He asked. I nodded, though my hands were still shaking. Thank you for getting here so quickly. Fortunately, I was already on my way to update you, he explained. We have completed our investigation, and the district attorney has decided to move forward with all charges. Your family will be formally arraigned next week. Given what just happened here, I would not be surprised if the judge denies bail, at least for your sister. It was a small victory, but an important one. My family would face consequences for their actions, would be held accountable in a way they had probably never experienced before. As Detective Rivera left, promising to station an officer outside my room for the remainder of my hospital stay, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Relief that the immediate danger had passed, satisfaction that justice was being served, but also a profound sadness for what might have been, for the loving family I had always wanted but never had. Marcus returned to my bedside, taking my hand in his. It's almost over, he said softly. Soon they will not be able to hurt you anymore. It is never going to be over, I replied, the reality of my situation settling heavily on my shoulders. They are still my family. The people who raised me, the people who were supposed to love me. How do I ever get past that? By building something better, he said firmly. By surrounding yourself with people who truly care about you, who support you, who celebrate your successes instead of resenting them. By creating a new family, one based on love and respect rather than blood. As I looked at him, this man who had dropped everything to be by my side, who was fighting for me with every resource at his disposal, I realized that perhaps I had already begun to build that new family. And perhaps, despite everything I had lost, that was something worth holding on to. The day of the arraignment arrived 6 weeks after my fall. I had undergone spinal surgery 2 weeks earlier, and while the procedure had been successful, I was still weak and in considerable pain. The doctors had advised against attending court, concerned about the physical strain and emotional stress it would place on my recovering body. But I was determined to be there, to look my family in the eyes as they faced the consequences of their actions. This was not about revenge, I told myself. It was about standing up for myself, about refusing to be a victim any longer. Are you all right? Marcus asked as he helped me into the wheelchair that would be my mobility aid for the foreseeable future. No one would blame you for watching the proceedings remotely. I need to be there, I insisted. I need them to see me, to know that they did not break me, even if they tried their best. The courtroom was packed when we arrived. News of the case had leaked to the press. The story of a professional athlete betrayed by her own family, too sensational to ignore. Cameras flashed as Marcus wheeled me down the center aisle to our place beside the prosecutor, Assistant District Attorney Jillian Carter. Are you ready for this? She asked quietly, her expressions sympathetic but professional. They will all be here, and their lawyers will likely try to paint you as the aggressor or suggest that the fall was an accident you are exploiting for financial gain. I'm ready, I assured her, though my heart was racing. We have the evidence. The truth is on our side. The side door opened, and 3 figures were led in by court officers, my parents and Vanessa, all dressed in conservative clothing that could not quite hide the anger and resentment in their expressions. They looked smaller, somehow less intimidating than they had loomed in my memory. Just ordinary people who did an extraordinarily terrible thing. As they took their places at the defense table, their eyes scanned the courtroom, eventually landing on me. My father face hardened. My mother's gaze slid away, unable or unwilling to maintain eye contact. But Vanessa stared directly at me, her expression a mixture of defiance and something else, something that might almost have been fear. The proceedings began with the formal reading of the charges. Vanessa was charged with aggravated assault, while my parents faced charges of theft, fraud, criminal negligence, and conspiracy. All three pleaded not guilty, as expected. The prosecutor presented the evidence we had gathered, the security footage from Mrs. Jenkins's camera, which clearly showed Vanessa pushing me through the window, the audio recording from my phone capturing not only the assault, but also my parents' callous response and subsequent planning to steal my assets, bank records showing the withdrawals and fraudulent charges, hospital records documenting my injuries and my family's behavior. Throughout the presentation, I watched my family's faces. My father maintained a stoic expression, though his jaw tightened noticeably when the audio recording was played. My mother dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, playing the role of the distressed parent, though she had shown no such concern when I was actually injured. Vanessa's defiance gradually crumbled as the evidence mounted, replaced by a growing panic as the reality of her situation became clear. Their defense attorneys did their best, suggesting that the push was a heat-of-the-moment reaction in a family argument that had gotten out of hand, that my parents had taken my belongings only to keep them safe. The whole situation was being blown out of proportion. But their arguments seemed weak and desperate in the face of such overwhelming evidence. As the hearing progressed, the courtroom door opened quietly and a familiar figure slipped in, taking a seat in the back row. Charles Wilson, the president of the Chicago Blaze, the man who had shaken my hand and welcomed me to the team on what now felt like a lifetime ago. He nodded gravely when he caught my eye, his presence a silent show of support that meant more than words could express. When it came time for bail to be considered, ADA Carter argued forcefully against it. Your Honor, the defendants have already demonstrated a willingness to harm the victim and to exploit their vulnerable state for financial gain. They attempted to violate the restraining order by forcing their way into her hospital room. They represent an ongoing threat to her safety and recovery. To my surprise, the judge agreed, denying bail for all three defendants. They would remain in custody until trial, a process that could take months. As the court officers moved to lead them away, my father finally looked directly at me, his expression a mixture of anger and something that might have been shame. Then his gaze shifted to the back of the courtroom, where Charles Wilson sat, and his face went pale. "Oh my God, it's Charles Wilson! The president of the Chicago Blaze is here!" The outburst caused a stir, heads turning to see the sports executive. My father seemed to suddenly realize the full implications of what he and the rest of my family had done, not just to me personally, but to my career, to my relationship with a major sports franchise, to my future. My mother, following his gaze, gasped and actually swayed on her feet, requiring a court officer to steady her. Vanessa looked like she might be sick, the color draining from her face as the magnitude of her actions finally hit home. For a moment, our eyes met across the courtroom, and I saw something I had never seen in her expression before. Genuine regret. Not for getting caught, not for the consequences she was facing, but perhaps, just perhaps, for what she had done to her sister. As they were led away, Marcus squeezed my shoulder gently and said softly, "It is over, at least this part." But I knew it was not really over. The trial still lay ahead, and beyond that, the long road of physical recovery, of rebuilding my life and career from the shattered pieces my family had left behind. Yet, for the first time since waking up in that hospital bed, I felt a sense of closure, of a chapter ending and a new one beginning. After the courtroom cleared, Charles Wilson made his way over to where Marcus and I waited. "Miss Coleman," he said formally, extending his hand, "on behalf of the Chicago Blaze organization, I want to express our full support during this difficult time. Thank you for coming," I said, genuinely touched by the gesture. "I know the team must be reconsidering the contract after my injury." "Actually," he replied, a small smile forming, "that is part of why I am here. The organization has been following your situation closely, and we have made a decision. While your playing career may be on hold for now, we would like to offer you an assistant player development coach with full medical benefits and a modified version of your original contract. If and when you are able to return to the court, the door will be open." The offer was so unexpected, so generous, that for a moment I could not speak. After everything that had happened, after the betrayal and the loss and the pain, here was a gesture of faith in my future, in my abilities, in my worth as a person and a professional. "I don't know what to say," I finally managed, tears welling in my eyes. "Say yes," Charles encouraged. "The Blaze needs people like you, Robyn. People with determination, with heart, with the ability to overcome adversity. Those qualities do not disappear just because you cannot play right now." "Then yes," I said, a smile breaking through the tears. "Absolutely yes." As we left the courthouse, reporters clustered at the bottom of the steps, cameras flashing, microphones extended. Marcus started to steer my wheelchair toward a side exit to avoid them, but I placed my hand on his arm. "No," I said quietly. "I want to talk to them. I want to tell my story in my own words." He hesitated, then nodded, understanding that this was part of my healing process, part of reclaiming my narrative from those who had tried to destroy it. As we approached the press, I straightened in my wheelchair as much as my healing spine would allow, lifted my chin, and prepared to face the world on my own terms. No longer defined by the family that had betrayed me, but by the strength I had found in surviving that betrayal. 18 months can change everything. That is what I kept thinking as I wheeled myself onto the court for the first time since the fall. Not as a player, not yet, but as Coach Robyn Coleman, assistant player development coach for the Chicago Blaze. The journey to this moment had been longer and harder than anything I had faced before. 3 surgeries on my spine, countless hours of physical therapy, days when the pain was so intense I could not get out of bed, nights when the nightmares of falling, of betrayal, of abandonment would wake me screaming. But there had been progress too. Graduating from the wheelchair to a walker, from the walker to crutches, from crutches to a cane, and finally, just last month, taking my first unaided steps in over a year. Small, shaky steps, but mine. The trial had concluded 6 months after the arraignment. Vanessa was sentenced to 5 years for aggravated assault, with the possibility of parole after 3. My parents received 3 years each for their crimes, along with restitution orders for the money they had stolen. The financial compensation meant nothing to me, but the acknowledgement of their wrongdoing, the public record of what they had done, meant everything. I had not spoken to any of them since that day in court. My mother had written several letters from prison, filled with self-pity and thinly veiled accusations that I had somehow orchestrated their downfall. I stopped reading them after the third one. My father had not reached out at all, his pride apparently preventing even an insincere attempt at reconciliation. But Noah had surprised me. My younger brother, who had been present during the assault but had not participated, who had not spoken up in my defense, but had not joined in the theft either, had contacted me through Marcus 6 months after the trial. "I know I do not deserve your forgiveness. I stood by and did nothing while hurt you. I was a coward, but I want you to know that I am trying to be better. I have cut ties with Mom, Dad, and Vanessa. I am seeing a therapist to understand why I went along with their treatment of you for so long. I do not expect you to welcome me back into your life, but I needed you to know that I am sorry. Truly sorry. I had not responded immediately, unsure if I could or should let any member of my blood family back into my life. But eventually, after discussing it with Marcus and my own therapist, I agreed to a carefully supervised meeting in a neutral location. No longer believe in yourself. Marcus, Sophia, Charles, the teammates who had visited me in the hospital, the physical therapists who had celebrated every small victory with me. They were my true family. Coach Coleman, one of the rookies approached, ball in hand, interrupting my thoughts. Could you show me that move again? The one where you shift your weight to create space for the shot? I smiled, taking the ball from her. My movements were slower than they once were, more deliberate, but the muscle memory was still there, the knowledge still intact. Like this, I demonstrated, feeling the familiar rhythm of the game flow through me. It's all about timing and confidence, believing in yourself even when no one else does. The young player nodded, her expression serious, as she tried to mimic my movements. I watched her, offering corrections, encouragement, the very things I had once longed for, but never received from my own family. Later that evening, as Marcus and I sat on the balcony of our apartment overlooking the Chicago skyline, I shared these thoughts with him. I think I am finally at peace with what happened, I said, watching the sun set over the city that had become our home. Not because I have forgotten or because it doesn't still hurt some frames, but because I can see now that it led me here, to this life, to these people, to you. He took my hand, his expression soft in the fading light. You know what amazes me about you? It's not that you survived what they did to you. It's that you refused to let it define you. You took all that pain and turned it into something beautiful. Not alone, I reminded him. I never could have done it alone. No one should have to, he agreed. That's the point, isn't it? We're not meant to face life's challenges in isolation. We're meant to lift each other up, to be better together than we could ever be apart. As darkness fell and the city lights began to twinkle like earthbound stars, I thought about the long road that had brought me here, about the family I had lost and the family I had found. I thought about the young players I was now coaching, about the possibility that someday I might help someone else find their path, their strength, their voice. The pain of betrayal would always be a part of my story, a scar that would never completely fade. But it was no longer the whole story, no longer the defining chapter. It was simply one piece of a larger narrative that continued to unfold in ways I could never have imagined. And in that moment, watching the night settle over Chicago, my hand in Marcus's, my future stretching out before me with possibilities I was only beginning to explore, I knew that I had not merely survived my family's betrayal. I had transcended it. Have you ever had to rebuild your life after someone you trusted betrayed you? How did you find the strength to move forward? Share your stories in the comments below. And if this journey of overcoming family betrayal resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that family is not always blood, but the people who stand by you when it matters most. Thank you for listening. And remember, the family you choose is often stronger than the family you are born into.